is Crystal Hanna. This is not my favorite thing to do, to talk in front of people. I wish I'd had paid more attention to speech class in college. The year that I went and almost flunked college, or flunked speech in college. But I am going to read something that I wrote like over 20 years ago. I wrote it in first person, and one of my friends had a printing business, and so he printed like 700 of these for me, and I still have a few left. But this was like my first show that I ever did. It was in Bartlesville. It was in 1999, and it was after I had spent the whole spring and summer with my mentor, and her name was Anna Mitchell. She's actually was a Cherokee treasure and a master potter. And it's so awesome and exciting. Cherokee Nation just now opened, just this past Monday, the Anna Mitchell Cultural Center, and I think they call it a travel center. So it's right off the turnpike at Veneta. You can't miss it. So if you ever go by there, and what Cherokee Nation did is they invited 7 of the top potters, Cherokee potters. My name was included. I go, well, thank you, Lord, for that, to exhibit and sell our pottery through the end of the year. So if, like I said, if you ever get by there, but Anna Mitchell was definitely the person that created almost and influenced, I'm going to say, so many Southeastern tribes artists, not just potters, but are people that paint, people that do basketry, to incorporate all those old ancient designs that inspire me to this day. And so she was self-taught, and luckily I met her in 1998, and my kids were grown. A lot of women really, you know, we get married, we raise our kids, and it's like, okay, now what? And not just women, but men too. You have an opportunity to really find your own passion. And I don't know how it happened, because I thought I was going to be a quilter like my mom and grandma. So I've been doing pottery now for like over 23 years, but it actually, I feel like, because I do the old traditional ways, and I'll talk about some of the clays and that, is like carrying on, you know, our culture, you know, for our young generation. So I teach classes at every opportunity I get, and I've been retired from what I call the real world, you know, because I worked in an office and did marketing and inside sales and that kind of thing, you know, all my life. So there's a story in here, and I won't read all of this since I've kind of told you most of it, but in 2000, I was still early in doing like art shows. I wasn't doing too many. I met Billy Mills. Do you guys know who he was? He was an Olympic runner, and let's see, I'll have to read this. He upset the 10,000 meter event in the 1964 Olympics by winning gold. And when he was speaking to us, he was saying, find a passion, something that makes you get up in the morning and really just want to, like, when I worked, I loved to work. And I was like looking forward every morning to like being there and talking to my customers and getting my work done. But you know, that part of my life is over. I don't really miss it now. But you know, I did really enjoy working. But it is finding a passion. It might be raising your babies right now, you know, because that's when I certainly didn't do anything like this, because my priority was my husband, my family, my kids, and now I have grandkids. And are they interested in doing pottery? Not very much. But, you know, you can't really force, you know, your children or grandkids to do things. But I truly, truly enjoy doing what I do. And one of my mottos definitely is never stop learning. You know, even for my pottery, I'm like, oh my gosh, I've done this like 100 times, but now I figured out a different way, you know, to make it better. And luckily this year I've like I turned 70 in March. And so I'm thinking that 70s are going to be, you know, my decade to shine, you know, for my family and for myself. And it's about taking care of yourself too, you know, mentally, physically. But it's still about that passion. And what I learned from Anna was what? You got to start someplace. You got to find the clay, right? Since I do like more traditional style. So like, I don't know if you want to pass this around, but the clay.
Oops. You about joined me.
Anyway, I guess I'm out of balance a little bit. So this clay came from North Carolina, which is like the ancient homelands of the Cherokee. And then this second little piece came from actually my friend's Cherokee allotted land just north of Veneta. And apparently that land through the years, the geologists say it takes about 30 million years for clay to form that would make good pottery. So once I find the clay, it could be at a pond, it could be maybe somebody digging a roadbed or lateral lines. It's usually, you know, below the surface of the earth. And I let it dry just like this. And I usually like crush it up into little small pieces, and I put it in a bucket of water and just let it settle. And some of the little trashy things, you know, like the sticks and leaves will kind of surface. You can pour that off. And I use, now this is really traditional, I use a drill with a paint stirrer on it in a 5-gallon bucket, right, until I get it like the consistency of cream. And then some potters will put it through a really fine mesh sieve or sieve, however you guys say that word. And what happens, the clay is heavier than the water. So the clay like sinks down. And if I'm in a really big hurry, like I actually processed a 5-gallon bucket of clay just last month and was able to make a few pieces. I blew them all up for this show, but that's part of it too. But you know, we have a burn ban going, and so I normally do like a wood firing. So anyway, once you get the clay to a consistency that you can work, you know, you wedge it, and there's some little techniques to getting it ready. And then you can start forming. And I will do like a little example. When I teach classes, especially for beginners, it's like little pinch pots. And then you can make them grow by coiling, you know, like making the snake to make them grow. And then you have to have tools, right? So Anna's teaching was, you know, just kind of make your own tools. Now, some of the tools I can't make, but a tool might just be like a simple stick. Now, I did make this one, you know, for just like incising a design. Most people are really familiar with Southwest pottery, and a lot of it is like deeply carved pots. But the Mississippian pots that I've found were only, they had like, I call it incising, so they just like drew the lines, like little thin lines with a stick. So it could be this, or it could be a stamped design, which the Cherokees and a lot of the southeastern tribes did use their own stamps. One of the things that the Cherokees really like to do, and is highly recognized today by us potters, maybe not you guys, but is they would carve a design on a wooden paddle, and you guys can pass that around too. And I actually had an archaeologist make these for me, actually. I asked him to make them. I said, I'll pay you for them. And he sent them to me. He says, I want you to use these with all your kids' classes so that they can know, you know, our ancient designs and how we made them. So, so what they did with this is once they got the pot formed, it was not too soft, but not too hard. You kind of have to find, and you paddle stamped the pot. You guys see that, right? You see me paddling my pot. So, and I brought some air dry clay here today. If anyone wants to do like a little medallion piece, I've got little bags for you to take. Just so, and it's just air dry. It's just fun, so you can kind of get the feel of clay. So, wooden paddles. And I've researched some, they're called Swift Creek pottery. And I made a whole set of these. I think there was 8 or 10. And what was so interesting about these probably date back maybe, I don't know, 1,500 years or so. But a group of archaeologists put these together, and they're really complicated, kind of like mirror-like designs that they use. But they do say that those probably originated from the creeks. But I thought that they were so awesome, and I have used those. In fact, I made a whole set of those and donated to the Creek Council House a few years back. So tools. This is like definitely a well-used tool, and it's actually made out of Osage orange wood, or I think they call it something else too, bodark, I think. Our bow makers will make their bows out of bodark. I think it's the one with the big green apple-like things. We used to throw them at each other when I was a kid, injure each one. But so anyway, another potter friend made this. You can kind of, if like you're making something with a spout clean, or if you have like a neck on one. So it's a great tool. And another pottery friend made this. And this is just a bone tool that another potter friend made for me. And of course, I do like, the tools that you can buy at the Pottery Supply House to kind of help shape. Maybe in the ancient days, they might have used a gourd, as a scraper. And I had put a shell in here too, but a shell that, would use good as a scraper to kind of thin the inside of a pot out. So then does another just a pottery tool that probably the ancients used is just a river cane. So you can use it, for kind of designing little dots on it. And you can actually polish the pot with a river cane. And another thing that I always have lots of, my grandkids, they find rocks. It could be like, I don't know, so now I collect rocks. So it could be a polished stone, or it could just even be like a river stone. So you can pass those two around too. And so what is polishing, right? So once you get your pot made in what I call like the leather hard stage, where if you like move it around, it's gonna break, right? And you can use some what I call slip water to kind of coat your pot and let you have a little smoother polishing area. You just burnish or polish. And what that does is what I've been told by people who are real ceramic artists is the clay sticks up a little bit. It has like little tiny, minute fingers. And whenever you polish that, it makes them lay down and get mirror-like. Now, there is a, sorry, I can't think of her name. She's right around the corner. She's Chickasaw and another like Southwest tribe, Marcella. Yepa? Anyway, there's a lot of great potters here today. You should see her pottery. It is highly, highly burnished. And she uses all natural minerals. She's amazing. And speaking of potters, we have some awesome potters here. I have to throw their names out, so you have to go by and see them. Troy Jackson, he won Best of Show here. He's like fabulous. He makes these huge sculptures. Jane Austin, she also learned from Anna Mitchell and was very highly influenced by Anna. Lisa Rutherford, Karen Walking Stick. I'm going to leave somebody out. Tama Roberts. Tama is kind of new on the scene, and she's really more contemporary and does like glazing and things. So even though we all kind of got our inspiration from Anna, we've all kind of followed our own path to do what inspires us. So I'm telling you, clay definitely is one of the most underappreciated natural elements, because it really is everywhere, but not all of it makes good clay. So this is clay. This is my Oklahoma clay that I've processed and gone through and rings and fingernails do not do good with pottery. So I always wear an apron. someplace. And here I've got a pocket. Yeah, no, it's under here someplace, under all this stuff here. And why did I wear a white shirt and I'm doing a pottery demonstration? I have no idea, but here I am. So I ruin all my clothes, so I can tell you, I never buy anything new. So I like to hit the resale shops, and it's just like, I cannot think I'm going to spend a lot of money on something that I'm going to get clay on at some point or another. So it can be kind of sticky, and I have like work boards that I've covered with canvas, and so if it is still kind of sticky, you can like wedge it on the board. And I just really didn't have room to bring my work board today. But the way, if you find clay like at a pond or something and it's wet, my trick that I found, if I just think it might make good pottery, is I'll like squeeze it out like this and kind of small, and I'm going to wrap it around my finger like that. And if it holds together, it's going to be stretchy or plastic enough probably to make good pottery. What I always think of is, how mud puddles, and they start drying up and they start curling like that, and they split. And so that if it's not real clay, it would do the same thing. So tools. What else? Does anybody have any questions? Because I am not going to take 45 minutes.
How long do you have to soak the clay from that state to where it's pliable?
Really, I might put it in a bucket and leave it in there for as little as a week. Because if you break it up really small, what happens, the clay is like a sponge when it's dry. But if I tried to break this clay down when it's wet, it would take forever. But when it's dry like this, it'll soak the water up, and then you can break it down. So I think the thing I haven't talked about is the firing part. So which is really, I always say it's like Christmas morning. So clay has to dry completely. So I talked about the leather hard stage when it's, it'll feel cold when you touch it. And the rock hard stage feels like room temperature. But still, even with our humidity in Oklahoma, you have to make sure it's like, Anna taught me to put my pieces in an oven, just like a low oven, to let it dry completely before you put it in the fire. Some potters will set their pots around the fire and keep turning, and then before they actually put them in the fire. So there's so many different ways, to fire pottery, even if you do like natural firing. And I also like blackened pottery. So how would I get my pots black if I don't really paint them?
Put some dung in there.
That's it. You're right. Yeah. So
Cow manure.
So we don't have cows at home, but we have a lot of oak trees. So in the fall, I just rake up those oak leaves and bag them, put them in the hay barn. And we also have horses, so I will bag some of that. It's really dry stuff. And the blackening part to me is like really one of the most fun parts, is because it's like a second firing. I have an electric kiln as well, because I wouldn't be able to do all these shows just by doing all wood firing. But I like to heat the pot up, and I have some like little metal containers, and I'll put my leaves. You see me crushing those leaves, right? And putting them in the bottom. And then I just set my pot in that container, and I light it up, and I literally let it flame up. And when it's flaming really good, I put more leaves and maybe, put some dry horse manure. I don't always wear gloves either. It's kind of yucky. I should. I should. Yeah, it is dry. It's organic, right?
Dry.
And just really let it kind of blaze up a little bit. And then I put like a lid over it, like a little metal lid. And you'll see smoke kind of rolling out of it. And what happens is then the carbon from all that smoke just kind of penetrates the outside of the pot and it makes it black. Or sometimes you get smoke clouds. I like all of it. There's different ways you can do to finish a pot. Just in the last 5 or 6 years, I've done flash firings, but I do it as a second firing, and I usually do my smaller pots that way. Down in our pasture, where we have our weenie roast, we've got some like a little pit, with the rocks around it. And so I can build a little fire in that and put my pieces, right on the coals, and then just put like little more twigs and stuff. And then what happens is you'll see a lot of smoke clouds. You'll see like the different minerals in the clay. Sometimes you'll get little oranges or blacks or yellows. So, like I say, the firing is definitely the best part of it.
Do you have any materials that you put into your clay? Like I know some people use like pine needles or materials.
I have used pine needles to help in fact, I use the pine cones. We have a couple of pine trees at home to help start my fire. But you can also smoke your pieces in the pine needles. What I found with pine needles, it leaves like a little tarry residue. So if I do pine needles, I usually will also mix it with the oak leaves so I don't get that little tarry residue on the pots.
Do you find any kind of good clay in Oklahoma?
Yes, you missed it, John Tiger. I've got some right here. This came from north of Veneta, which is most of my pots on my table. I do have some commercial clay pieces on my table.
But go to that spot, I've already been there.
That's right. Well, it's a secret spot. It took me 2 years for the lady to let me get on her property. So
it makes you wonder the Canoan people that here before us, there has got to be good clay around here somewhere.
Yep.
What they put out.
They found it. They found the clay. And one thing that I also recommend is visit our museums. I know Gilcrease is closed right now, but when I first started really the research, and I'd been working with Anna, Gilcrease down in their archives had this beautiful pottery collection. I think Thomas Gilcrease had started years ago. And a lot of it is this Mississippian pottery. So it was awesome. I had to wear gloves and I got to take photos, and I've got my photo album at home to really inspire me and see, what it looked like. Some of it was thicker and some of it was thinner. But it was really awesome, beautiful pottery. And Philbrook also has a great pottery collection. They have a lot of Southwest pottery collections, which is okay, because people think of Southwest pottery, as very highly collectible. But with those names that I mentioned, our Cherokee potters here, we are coming up as a highly collectible art form. We just kind of got a slow start, because we really weren't originally from here and haven't been in Oklahoma for that long. But it really is. I cannot say enough about Anna for doing what she did and really establishing especially our potters as a fine art. Because when she started, she told me, she says, the shows, they didn't want to take her pottery. They wanted to enter it as a craft. So she made some great, she was a real trailblazer, I will say that for her. And even though we don't have like the generations of potters here in Oklahoma like the Southwest potters do, maybe one of my granddaughters, when they get a little bit older, the oldest one's 14, the youngest one's 9, maybe one of those will like to do some pottery.
If you were looking for clay in Oklahoma, what area would you look in?
I don't think it really matters, because it could we found some clay on our own property when they were digging a water line that made some good clay, and the water line was pretty deep, and they had just pulled that clay, up from the depth of the line that they were digging, and it made some pretty good clay. Some of it is better than others, but this particular clay that I've been using is pretty good. So.